Sometimes I feel like I'm talking too fast when I'm talking to the camera, but as someone with a background in history and political science, I really wanted to comment on some current ongoings, and I will try not to go on too long as I am wont to do. Eric July, Rippa, the Rippaverse, and the pushback of the Marxist elites in society. Let's not ever be confused. The woke thing is Marxism. Classical Marxism, the overthrow of the ruling or owner class by the worker class or the subjects, the proletariat versus the bourgeoisie, to seize control of the means of production and thereby make your own goods for you without a boss, if that makes any sense at all. Of course, economically it does not in the long term. It never works. There's a million other directions to go with that. In the more Chinese model, although all communists do this, but the Chinese really emphasize the cultural revolution, the social aspects. It is a part of all communism to undo the family, faith, traditions, values, national identity, all those things around which are built the classical structure of society in order to perfect their revolution. But when Mao's fiscal revolution was such a disaster, trying to get agrarian peasants into a Marxist economy, which is even dumber than any other form of the Marxist economy, and they're all dumb. He resorted to, of course, the blame game, scapegoating. It's always someone else's fault. It's the fault of those that aren't fully embracing the revolution and its identity. It's women who wore their hair too long or actually wore makeup, or men who acted too masculine and not too enough genericness to their comrade. And the struggle sessions of putting people on the spot and beating them with little red books of Mao's sayings, forcing people to relent, to stop committing thought crime and face crime, to pretend to go along with the masses. I mean, this is woke. In America, we've seen this huge shift towards a more socialist economy, and it's a disaster. It is undoing us and unraveling us at a prodigious rate, as it is wont to do. On the other hand, what we've seen, they've had a lot more push for longer and a lot more success with the cancel culture struggle session version of the Chinese communism with Chinese characteristics, in order to cancel celebrities that disagree, get their own people in positions. I mean, literally, every show, movie, newspaper, comic book, everything begins with the marker board, with the boxes you must check to make sure you're in line with the Chinese Communist Party, the Communist Party of Venezuela, wherever, the woke Communist Party of the United States of America. So everything stinks because everything's made from this ridiculous formula. But you see, what they've done is this woke movement has seized control of the means of production, not necessarily at an industrial level, not directly, not yet. The economy's going that way. But the ability to produce entertainment, instead of shutting everything down and creating Pravda, which is ironically no longer communist, they have just seized control of all the major Hollywood studios, all of the major networks, the producers of magazines, newspapers, comic books, the means of production, of entertainment, of thought, of art. Things that have always been used for one form of propaganda or another. Things that, yes, have always conveyed a message. And really, since television and movies existed, they've probably been more leftist than I would like them to be. But now the direct control of political appointees, people that worked in politics, working in Hollywood, vice versa, especially beginning the Obama years, they control the means of production. They produce only things which are under control of their message. And there has been a push back, and this is why they're going berserk. There have been some that have been like corporate level pushback when we see things like the Babylon Bee. There's still a few elements, I guess, within Fox News, although that's pretty much just been conquered. One American News Network, China Uncensored, America Uncovered, the Daily Wire, I mean, the alternate economy with your own razors, you name it. There's been quite a bit now of a pushback. Eric Rippa with the comic books is devastating them. They are outraged by this because he's far more dangerous than maybe, I don't know, does he realize how dangerous it is that he's doing? Comic books taught me a lot growing up. I became a reader because I read comic books. That translated into high school and college, and they tried to cram communist nonsense down me. But when I started reading other things, I was able to grasp it, and I rejected all of that communist nonsense. Being able to read stuff that isn't always within the party line means opening people's minds to be able to think for themselves. That's the worst thing for the woke struggle session, cultural revolution, Maoist American communists. They do not want people to even know how to think. This is why all of these people that are kind of under 30, all they seem to do is repeat the same slogans that you hear over and over that are not thought through, but they are planned to be planted to guide people going forward. Eric Ripa producing a comic book that treats people as individuals, not as their categories, which deals with stories in a real human way that every real human can empathize with, regardless of what color or language or what shape you are, what you're born with or without. Real stories were things you could empathize with. I grew up on those great 80s comic books. My heroes among them were Monica Rambeau, version of Captain Marvel, who was later, they changed her name, I'm blanking. The Wasp, Janet Van Dyne, She-Hulk. You could empathize with these people as human to human, regardless of sex, which there's two, and regardless of language or racial identity. It wasn't something that we thought of. Growing up in an all-white, mostly white little farm town in the middle of rural farm country, we did not think about that stuff all the time, the way that the left pretends that white people think about that all the time. They didn't think about all that time. And when you met someone that didn't fit, you first regarded them as an individual. That was it. That's what we've really lost as communism has reduced everybody to their race and weirdly enough, who they want to have sex with, their fetishes, changing up their identity to put them at odds with each other. And the production of real, if you get real comic books out there, comic books that even the 80s, they were already relatively liberal, but they were more open-mindedly liberal. They were more classically liberal. They weren't full-on communist, woke. Just getting back there is so dangerous to the communist woke that they're absolutely going berserk. That this comic book that they would have been nervous if this company, if Rippaverse, if Isom, I say Isom, I heard someone say Isom, if this comic book had just hit the 100,000 goal, they would have been nervous and upset. But watching it go up day by day, because what it indicates is at this point, it doesn't matter. I think the comic's going to be great. It doesn't matter if it's mediocre at best. I think just the artwork puts it at least mediocre, even if the story stunk for some reason. But the fact that this exists shows that there's this huge market out there, that silent majority, maybe it's even a minority now, but an active enough, a courageous enough, a determined enough group that they'll look for things that aren't made by the communist-owned machine now that they have seized the means of production. This scares the crap out of all of the red communists, wokeists, Bolsheviks, all of the Chinese Maoist social struggleists behind the scenes. This is driving them berserk. Kicking it off Reddit as a hate group reveals how impotent and scared these cucks feel at the birth of the Rippaverse. And it doesn't matter if they eliminated him from the internet, if they banned Eric July and every access he had to the web. All the man needs is a landline hanging on the wall of an old block factory somewhere, because now that we know he's doing it, he's making it, he's printing it, we will reach out and we will find a way to order it. They are limited in their ability to stop us, at least for now. We've got to keep pushing this so that they stay limited until the point of their absolute impotence and shut down this whole woke nonsense and get back to a reasonable culture where people are treated as individuals for individual sake, individual liberty, maximum freedom, minimal intrusion, and write stories about real people. Where you shove your penis is not your character, it is your caricature. Just stop it. But I'm so excited. I was hoping that Ripple would do well. I've been blown away by how well he's been doing, and I just keep thanking the Lord. This is the pushback that we need right now at this moment, and I just want it to keep going.